I guess I just can't stay away. I love a good Tao of the day. How's everybody doing? This is Martin John, and it's a Saturday edition of Tao of the Day. You know, when I'm up, I just figure, why not do it? This is so fun. I love doing Tao of the Day. And, so here I am, talking about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it's filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and ways for us to live a more reasonable life. I've been thinking about this idea of living a reasonable life increasingly. I mean, I've been talking about it for years. I've been talking about it in this way for years, right? This idea of the Tao helps us live more reasonably. But I've been thinking about it, and it's, you know, it's really important that we keep a broad view of so many things, right? Like, if we want to change somebody, we have to ask ourselves, well, would we be willing to do the same for them? If it's like, okay, well, I want this from my partner. Well, if they wanted something from us, would we be able to do it? And we can say yes, as long as we're agreeing to do that, as long as it aligns with us. You know, we could do better, or we could do different. But it's like, you don't want, and we don't want other people to direct us in being, right? We want to be able to be as we are. And that means not, you know, and this is in terms of like relationships and other things like that. This is where I've ended up in my life, where it's like, I don't want to ask anybody to be anything for me in the future, right? I don't want someone to make a commitment to me that will be a commitment that they have to hold up their entire lives, because they may be a different person. They may want different things in the future. I don't know why I'm moving in this direction, but that's reasonable. It's reasonable to think that somebody will change their feelings for me over time. You know, it's reasonable to think that someone will have feelings for someone else over time. And so when I get in relationships and when I talk to people about this, I always have to say, well, people change, things change. And yes, you could work on keeping your feelings. You can work on keeping yourself in a specific state. But if we want what's best for each other, it's not about allowing us to, like, if we love somebody, we want to love them as they are, not as we met them, right? Not for the person that we met. I mean, maybe they've changed, but we have to be able to recognize ourselves in everybody around us. And then when we can get to these further places of understanding, we can realize that those people are really just emulating ourselves. And that which I want from outside of myself, like if I want a relationship with another person, that relationship is really pointing to me and things that maybe I lack. And then it's like, oh, well, they have it, so let's just use theirs. You know, they have attention to give me. Well, where's the attention I'm giving me? And what kind of attention am I looking for? And what is it? What is it that I'm looking for? And this is really just sort of self-inquiry. When we start looking outside of ourselves for things, and we start wanting things to be different for us, then we start really kind of getting to know ourselves if we take the time to make that what we're getting to know, right? If we take the time to think about that. So I clicked on the random number generator after talking about that. You know, so what I did just there is what I would ask from you is that you and I have a little conversation just about where you're at. So if you want to come up and we can talk a little bit about where you're at, what you're thinking about right now. I didn't know what I was thinking about. I didn't know what I was going to come up here and talk about, but I came up and I started talking, and then I picked the random number generator. So I didn't have to think of a number, but you can just pick a number, or we can pick a random number for you as well. Mine, life is flexible. So that's interesting, right? Life is flexible. Meaning when we have desires, or, I was talking about relationship and other things like that. Like if we find ourselves in a relationship, and I think I'm thinking about that because, I'm coming to a time, I think it's like autumn is coming. And so I'm sort of like, ooh, I would like someone in my life to cuddle right now. And so like, it gets cold at night now, and so I feel like that's starting to, come up. But I also want to be still with that. I don't want to be taking, I don't want to desire a relationship or desire a partner or anything to the point that I'm going to, not trust myself. Because I know and I prefer to just, when it comes and it's obvious rather than want. I never really want a relationship or anything like that, but, like being open to it. But you can, like that want really comes from within, right? Like it's like there's desire and there's want, and I prefer just to kind of let it all go. But so life is flexible. So let's read into this and see what it has for me. It is true for all things that while aligned with life, there is yielding, flexibility, and grace. It is also the case that aligned with death, all things are stiff, brittle, and inflexible. In all things, we can witness plainly rigidity of any kind is a companion of death. Softness of any kind is a companion of life. Being soft and yielding. Be soft and yielding. It overcomes rigidity. I know I read this one the other day, not here, in another group that I talk with. And it's good. It's good because it's these three words, of any kind, that really blow my mind about this verse. Because rigidity of any kind means that it could have started as softness, right? Like I talk about this idea of not having preference. And that's where my workshop is coming from, right? I'm putting on this workshop not because it was the plan or it was the idea. When I printed my book, when I printed my Tao, I didn't have any ideas of a book release. It was all very natural. I just literally, I wasn't doing anything with this Tao that I had written. And then it was like the 8th or whatever of January this year. And I remember because it was after the dark days. And it all just flowed. It was, I found myself, I didn't go out searching for digital printers, but I found myself looking for digital printers. I didn't know that what I was doing, that's what I was doing. But then I realized and I noticed, I'm like, wow, why am I looking at digital printers? Oh, I guess I'm going to print up my Tao. And it wasn't this, it was like literally a surprise to me. Like, it's not like I said, oh, I'm going to print my Tao, let me look at digital printers. No, I was looking at digital printers, and then I noticed I was looking at digital printers. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to print up my Tao. Okay, that's fun. And then after that, a friend of mine who said she would love to lay it out if I ever printed it, said she was going to be going to grad school, and she had this, deadline with her grad school and stuff. And so I was a little tentative to ask for her help, but I was like, I'd really love if you were interested to look at my layout. And she was just like, oh my God, I would love to lay out the Tao for you. And I was like, oh, well, perfect. I mean, I don't want to get in the way of your application or whatever, but her application went really quick and it was really just natural. Just like all of this was naturally happening for me, her application for grad school was naturally happening for her, and it was just unfolding. It was just being what it was. So there was no stress about either of our journeys. So She then laid it out, and literally within 3 weeks of me realizing I'm looking for digital printers, 3 weeks later, I had the books in hand and designed by an amazing designer. And they're beautiful. I didn't have any plans because I didn't think about it. I didn't have time to think about, well, what am I going to do? Well, what am I going to want? What am I going to there was no plan for any of this. It just all happened. Now that is because I don't have preference. It was already done because I do things. See, oftentimes what we get ourselves caught in is we want an outcome and we take an action to move us towards that outcome. What I've found is that in being still in my mind, and as much as I can in my mind and body, I should say, to the best of my ability, right? I can be still. In being still to the best of my ability, I do things without needing it to be driven by outcome, without having an expectation of what's going to happen, without a goal. Now, I know this flies in the face of all modern coaches and things, right? And not all, maybe. But, everyone wants you to have a goal. And I understand that, because if you have a goal, then they have something to sell you, right? A journey towards that goal. But if you don't have a goal, you can't be anybody's sucker, ultimately. If you don't have a goal, you're just living your life. Like, I didn't have a goal to print the Tao, but after doing this program for so many years or whatnot, it just turned into me writing it. Lots of people ask me, when are you going to write your translation? When are you going to write a translation of the Tao? No. I mean, eventually I did, but the whole time people were asking me, I was definitely saying, I have no intention of doing that, because I didn't. And then one day I started, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to do this now. Well, here we go. And I did it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then I did a video series. So if you go on YouTube, you can find my video series that explains and reads through each one of these verses. And it explains it to the best of my ability at the time that I recorded it. The whole time I've been doing this program. I mean, I've been doing Tao of the Day in some fashion, for over 10 years. I think I started on Twitter by just writing individual lines from the Tao. And so that was the Tao for the day. It was just this line. And then it's changed. And Wisdom, which was purchased by Noom Vibe, was a great platform. So this is a great platform for me, because I get to invite you up to pick a number and we can talk about your Tao for the day. And I can set the timer, and I got the timer set for 15 minutes, so we can really kind of dive into it with enough time, because each of these are pretty short. We can do a little bit of it, get a baseline like I needed to get Life is Flexible, and then move on to like the Tao and talking about it and the lines that are in it. But what I was addressing, and I want to make sure that this is all staying connected, is those 3 words, of any kind, right? Rigidity of any kind. So I started, and I was very loose. And in being loose, I wrote the Tao. And I didn't have any goals for it. I didn't have any ideas for it. And then I found myself looking at digital printers. Then I printed it. And because I found digital printers at the time I did, my friend was like applying for grad school, but still was very happy, which showed me that I was valuable to her, right? Because she took time out of a schedule of thinking about grad school to lay out the Tao for me. I wouldn't have been able to do as good a job at what she did for my Tao. My Tao is beautiful. And I think anybody that owns it would attest to that. It is well designed. It is well laid out. So I didn't have any plans of doing I didn't have any plans of doing any sort of book release or anything like that. And really, a workshop on the Tao is kind of a silly thing to some extent, because, Tao's number one chapter is words cannot express the Tao. What I'm going to do is take 2 hours and throw 2.5 hours full of words to try and express something that is outside of my ability to express. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it any more justice than I do it here or anywhere else. But it's good because I do want to do it. I like workshops. I enjoy doing the work that I do. And I love talking about Tao, as you guys can probably attest. So, not having a preference. It's oftentimes when you have a preference, you put energy towards something. It's like, I want something. Well, I don't want anything out of this workshop. I don't want anything out of the book. I don't want to sit here and celebrate myself. So I kind of have no preference. I have it's fine. Yeah. If somebody else wants to do it, I'll just go along. But no, that sometimes we have to do things that we're not necessarily, sometimes we have to, I was thinking about this the other day. We have to work. We have to work. We have to put in the effort. Now, there doesn't have to be a lot of effort, right? But we have to put in the effort. I was thinking about, life today is all about money, right? If you want to live, you have to have money, because that's the way that we've decided living is going to be done. There was a time where, every day you'd have to invest in your food stores, and your food stores, meaning like what you would store in your house. You would have to invest in food and shelter and water. Chop wood, carry water, right? This is the Buddhist thing. Like, what do you do before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What do you do after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. Oh, JK is going to join me this morning, talking about all sorts of stuff.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. You're on a walk?
I am.
That's good.
I was going to do the cleaning first, but then I decided not to. I was like, I'll just go and take the dog out first. That's what I was inspired to do. It might be a little bit of avoidance too, but we won't think about it that way.
A little avoidance of cleaning.
Yeah, I don't really want to clean the bathroom. When I get there, I will, but just, first thing in the morning, it's a lot nicer to watch the sun come up.
Watch the sun come up, then the grime go down.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So I'll be a little more, I think, it'll be a little bit more appealing after I, had the nice part of transitioning into the day.
Yeah. So the sun's coming up where you're at?
Yeah, it's mostly up. It's still coming up. It's not all the way up, but I think you say it often, but about how, or maybe you only said it once, but about how watching that transition into the day not going into, it really is beautiful. I went through years of waking up very late too, and it is a very big difference, very contrasting, so much nicer. For me, maybe it's just getting old too. Who knows?
Yeah, we all go through different phases. Like for me, I love it. I there is nothing like, I'm going to say 4 a.m. There's nothing like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when, you're up and it's quiet. And like by the time, like the sun's not even up and you're already moving about your day. It's just, for me, that's something that is just really, it's been life-changing for me. And it may very well be perceptible because, when I was an addict and stuff, I slept so late, and I had a room that was like pitch black, and I'd walk out and it would just be like painful because the sun would be glaring in, kids would be already in school, and I'd be just climbing out of my room.
Yep. Climbing out of the hole. That's what right. I used to call it.
Yeah.
Climbing out of the hole. But yeah, I do. I like it, and I like just getting the start, and being able to do it on my terms. Because when you get up late, and especially my household, everything's happening, and then it's all happening. You're not able to even glide into what be inspired. There's no room because everything's happening all around you, and you kind of have to jump in, you're pulled in, and you don't have to, but it's just what's there. And so you do.
Well, this is what I say, this is why I did that dark retreat in Guatemala. I don't know if you heard me talk about that, but I went to Guatemala, spent 6 days, I think, in complete blackness, in darkness, no light. And the reason is because, like you said, and I talk about leaving room for inspiration, right? Like the idea of don't eat so much that you're full. Don't fill your life with so many activities that you have no space in your schedule. Don't leave room for inspiration. You can't create it. You can't create more room in your life. There's only so much space. So leave some room. We don't have to have the TV on 24 hours a day. We don't have to have the radio on every time we drive. We can have moments of silence. We can have moments of stillness. And
what's funny about that?
What's that?
Is people look at you strange. So I remember years ago, and this was a long, long time ago. I was in my 20s, I think, and I started realizing. And I drove kind of far for work, especially considering these days most people don't drive anywhere for work. But I drove far, and it wasn't a great drive if you didn't get there in time. It was traffic and blah blah blah. But I was always looking to fill that space, and I did anything from praying to radio. And I decided one day, after talking to somebody, I was going to do nothing. And that was the day I stopped really turning on the radio in my car. Now, sometimes I do, but 90% of the time, now I don't really go anywhere anymore in a car, believe it or not, but 90% of the time when I get in the car, I don't turn on the radio. And people who get in my car are like, wow, that's odd. And it's funny because I had a friend, my daughter's friend came and was in the car, and one of the comments was, your family's so quiet. Now, there could have been a whole lot of reasons. My husband was driving, and I was a little nervous, and that kind of thing, and I was nervous about meeting her friend and all this, but at the same time, it was just funny because one of the things I think folks notice first when they get in our car is that there's no music, and there's no need to turn on the music. I haven't done it, and I do it sometimes, but it's not often.
Of course. I'm
an oddball.
It's funny. People get in my car and then we drive and there's just no music. There's just I don't have it on. It's never on. I will every now and again be like, oh, I want to hear a song, but I don't have any way of connecting. My car is not Bluetooth compatible or anything. So it's I just turn it on. And if something is on that I want to listen to at that moment, I'll leave it on. Usually it'll get turned off within a minute or two. Just because I'm like, no. Because I get that feeling of this is taking up space and I want to leave room for inspiration. It's not necessarily that explicit, but it's this doesn't feel comfortable to be filling my space with. And so I turn it off.
I agree. Yep.
Let's
and
find
especially
a number.
Loud. I'm getting old, man, because when it's loud too, when my kid gets in the car and she's pumping, I'm like, good night, please shut it off.
Yeah.
And she gets so angry at me, but I just like those things are so, they're just, I don't like them anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was thinking, let me think, 26.
26. Wasted movement.
Oh, there you go.
Well, there you go. Okay, so wasted movement. Yeah, we'll read it, and this is exactly what we're talking about, as it always is. Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. Without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. This is why the master travels and never leaves home. No matter how amazing the manifestation, she knows there is nothing she is not. Why should anyone seek to be influenced or entertained? If you let yourself be entertained, you lose touch with your root. If you let yourself be influenced, you lose touch with who you are. So, when I hear that, even the first line, without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. Without knowing silence, music or sound or audio is mysterious and distracting. It's like we were talking about, like, leaving room for inspiration. It's in that stillness that this is talking about, that inspiration has space to come. In my mind right now, I'm thinking of it like a little kitten. Like, that inspiration is a kitten. And if you go toward the kitten and try and get it to come to you, it's going to continue to shy away. The more you do, the more you push yourself, the more you fill that space, the more the kitten wants to run and hide. But the more you just sit back and allow it to come to you, it will, on its own accord, find its way to you. Thoughts?
That's something, yeah, that's been something that is something that I try to be very mindful of. It was funny because I got a call saying, a loved one was dying, and there's always a lot of energy, a lot of anxiety around this, and it's very dramatic. And, they're old, and it's okay. And I hadn't seen this person in a while, and I think I'd go see them. However, I took a breath and I said, hey, I'm going to wait. The opportunity will arise. I'm not going to force this.
Right.
Because I didn't have any thoughts about it. I can't predict whether somebody's going to pass away or when. Chances are it wasn't going to happen the way that it was being portrayed. It was going to happen. There were a lot of other things going on at that time. They had lost a brother because of the brother was older, so it was inevitable. But there was sadness. Then they got a diagnosis of cancer, and that fear of death that a lot of people have, I'm sure impacted. And I said, well, maybe she's a little depressed. I said, and whether people received that message, but that was what I felt was really going on. And well, she's still alive and it's months later, but either way, and she's doing better. And she was probably a little depressed. She's going to go. I mean, it's in the late 80s. I mean, it's just going to happen. But I was really looking at that, and I was trying to force myself to get there. And one day I got a call. And of course, in the, fanfare of it all was, oh, it's going to be any day now. And I said, I looked around. I said, today's a good day. And I went. And you know what? It was really great because I was able to let a lot go. A lot of, the person that I remember as a child versus the person that I realized, I came to know as an adult in her, I shied away, and I shied away from a lot of my family just because it was a lot and I needed to. And so there was guilt there. I looked at that and I said, man, I should have been there more, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of just said, well, it is what it is. I said, I needed to do that. And as I start to love myself more, that guilt kind of floated away because I needed that for me, and I wasn't
Right.
doing it out of etiquette, right?
Right.
That was not
Yeah.
what I was doing. And I actually, looking at it now, I feel better about that. But either way, the opportunity arose and I went, and it was beautiful. And when the opportunity arises again, I'll go again.
Right.
And it was beautiful, and it will be beautiful, but it doesn't have to be a forced movement.
Right.
A lot of movements, I think most of my life were forced, and it's nice to not have that. I wanted to say, when I was listening to you earlier, what kind of compelled me to join was when you were saying about putting words to Tao for 2 hours. But in my opinion, you bring a lot more than just the words. So you bring in energy, and you bring insight, and you bring a lot more than just words. So there's a lot in that space that is more than just what you're saying, I guess, is what I wanted to kind of say with that. Like you said, everything's stupid, but I think there's just so much more to those workshops, and I think they're good. I mean, from that perspective, because words are words. You can say a lot of words without saying anything at all, but if you
That's
can
true.
accomplish saying something, spoken or unspoken, that resonates, well, because it's in that other space that I think the message comes, if that makes sense. It's
Oh,
that
absolutely.
not in just your words, it's in that whatever else is there, that energy or the stuff that the words can't describe.
Right. Absolutely. And it should be said, of course, if I thought it was a waste, I wouldn't be doing it. So it is, and that's what goes back to my life is flexible, right? Rigidity of any kind. Like if I were rigid to the idea that words can't do it, that's a companion of death. Softness of any kind, being flexible in that's the companion of life. And you're about to drop down. I do want to talk a little bit more about this. You don't have to come back up if you don't have the time, but I'm going to talk about what you were talking about and how it relates so beautifully to this 26 that you chose, wasted movement. First of all, you were talking about all of this, like you and that relative, like the relative that was ill, right? And everybody was thinking that she was going to pass. Without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. This is the big line in 26, right? This is the statement. This is the fact, right? So the first 2 lines are facts, right? Without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. I'm waiting for the screen to pop back up. And without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. These are the 2 facts. Jackie's going to join me again. Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. Without knowing stillness, all movement is. These 2 are facts. These are not. It's not trying to suggest anything. It's just telling you the facts. And the stillness that you experienced, Jackie. The stillness that you experienced when you said, no, I'm not just going to react. I'm not just going to go because everybody's telling me to go. I'm not ready to go. All of them, everybody that went because it was etiquette, everybody that went because they felt that was what they were supposed to do, their energy just spun out of control. They didn't accomplish anything with themselves the way that you did, right? You got to really see this relationship transition in a way and you got to experience yourself and learn from this experience because you were able to be still within that. You didn't have to go, and you realized that I'm just going to be still with this. And then it led you to go when it was time for you to go, to have the experience you were going to have. But if you didn't achieve that stillness, you would have went and you would have spun your wheels and you'd have been like, oh, it's any day now. It's any day now. And then until you got bored with it. And that's
I would have really missed out then. Because it was a beautiful experience. And it's funny, you're right on, because the reports, now I didn't go back, but the reports when everybody arrived, it was like a party.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, it was, when I was there, it wasn't. It was very quiet. Right. And it was very still. And it was nice. And, that's my vibe anyway. But it was not that way. And there was a lot of distractions. There was a lot of fanfare, I like to call it, as I said before. And it was, this weeping and loud music, and I would imagine drinking and lots of food and, a celebration of life before the person even passed. Right. But it wasn't in a good way in my mind. That's not something I wanted to partake in. So, yes. Well, so the energy was very crazy, from what I understand.
That next line, right? So we start with these two facts, right? Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. And that's what that was, right? That party was distracting for everybody. Mm-hmm. And without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. Everything they did is now gone. It's not like anything stuck around. But with you had an experience that is going to change your relationship with that person and your relationship with life, maybe itself. And that's why all the movement that they did was wasted, because it was just about distraction. It was just about feeling something, and feelings are fleeting. And then the next line, this is why the master travels and never leaves home. You may have physically left your house to go somewhere else and to visit somebody, but you didn't leave home. You didn't leave you. You didn't try to become someone else so that you can be present for them. You were you. Everybody else, they were trying to escape themselves. They leave home any chance they can get because they don't like it there.
Oh man, yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. It's true, and it resonates because, I think about the years I just wanted to leave home.
Yeah.
Every chance I could get, any chance I could be out, and finding something to distract.
Yeah, whether that's out of your physical home or just not you, because
all the above.
Right. Yeah.
Mostly out of me. It was not feeling good in my own skin, and not, always same thing, like you were talking about goals, and I let go of goals, and I still have some as they arise, as
Yeah.
I would like to do
happen.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you do it. You don't sit on it. You just act.
I was so career, I grew up, I had to get literally out of my home, the physical home, not my physical body, which ultimately that strong desire to do that and change my world became really, something where I was changing. Then I didn't like myself, because I was just always chasing something anyway. It changed. But I do, now I like my home. I like both my homes. And good. They are a good place to be. But yeah, it's, I feel for that. I felt that anyway, leaving your body. And I left my body a long time. And when I finally did come home, it welcomed me. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. You know, and this 26 continues, no matter how amazing the manifestation, she knows there is nothing she is not. And then you don't have to go and find these things outside of yourself. You don't have to bring all this food to fill yourself. And we were talking earlier about leaving room for inspiration. It's like when you have loud music, when you have all this food, when you have all these people, when you have all this stuff that you can just distract yourself with, you're just filling that space and there's no room to be inspired. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't be inspired in that, but the idea is to leave room in your life so that you can give yourself the best opportunity to be inspired.
Yeah.
And then it asks
Sometimes
the big
you don't
question.
want that inspiration, so you shove it down.
Truth is always difficult, but like you might have, and you don't always, sometimes people don't want to be inspired because they don't know that they'll have the energy to follow through with that inspiration. The energy is always going to be provided if the inspiration is coming from a true source. Now, if the inspiration is coming from the manifestation, meaning that you have external goals and you don't really believe in yourself or the goals or the things, then you are going to run out of energy. The physical world is a dense place. And if you're moving forward without any inspiration, eventually you'll run out of energy or life. And then it asks, like this number 26 asks the question, why should anyone seek to be influenced or entertained? And there's two very specific things that it says. If you let yourself be entertained, you lose touch with your root. What do you think that references?
I guess maybe your heart and your being, as well as the collective being that is all of us. Mm-hmm. I think that connection gets severed,
Yeah, and we're out of touch with it. When we're being entertained by things outside of ourselves, we're not in touch with what's happening. We're just sort of, it's like when you're watching TV and you're not even present and you're just watching it. Like you're being entertained, or you're laughing at things and you're outside of, like, even if laughter is great. Like if you can, like, laughter can work as an opiate. It can take you out of pain, but there are monks that get themselves out of pain through meditation. There are different ways to do it. I'm not saying one is better than the other or whatever, but you can lose touch with your root. You can lose touch with that which connects you to all things by being entertained, especially if that entertainment isn't necessarily nice, or it's sassy, or it's at the expense of other things, or it creates story.
Yeah, I saw that with my son. He gets so sucked in. And now, as little, so there's a lot of, I mean, it's Peppa Pig or something, so there's not a whole lot there. However, although Peppa Pig's pretty funny, but I see him sucked in to a point where he doesn't respond. When my daughter was little, she could multitask. So, she still was with you, but she wasn't.
I would argue that she may have appeared to multitask, but multitasking is still something that we know cannot be done.
No, she was just able to switch between tasks very fast in her head. Quickly. She was able to, you can only do one thing at a time, but she's able to, and, but with my son, he's focused and in the space, and, he's invested, whether it's play or TV, whatever, he gets invested, which is good. And it's just different for me. But either way, there's a lot of times he goes, I don't want that thing on, and it was funny because it was a couple of weeks ago, everybody was getting sick. The dog was even sick and there was poop everywhere. It was terrible. Yeah. and I'm trying to take care of this dog and the kid's going crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And someone goes, did you turn on the TV? And oh my gosh, I was like, I didn't even think about that. But that's where we've transitioned. I don't even turn it on. In that moment I did need a minute because I needed to
Yeah, of
clean up the
course.
damn poop. But it also, what resonated me was how sucked in, how much energy that sucks from people, because I could see
Yeah.
it. And it's really cool to hear him say, don't turn that thing on. Don't
Yeah.
turn that thing on. Which I was like, okay, we could do that. And his behavior and everything is so different. It's so different.
We don't recognize how, like coming from the space of addiction, again, I got 23 years, so it's a long time ago, but you don't recognize how sick or how uncomfortable you are. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like eventually laying in bed will give you bed sores. It is not like, even though laying in bed could be the most comfortable thing, eventually that's going to hurt. And that's the thing. No matter how much we want to comfort ourselves with entertainment, it will eventually be painful.
Like Willy Wonka, man. Grandpa Joe got out of bed eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then the last line of this is, if you let yourself be influenced, you lose touch with who you are. And I talk about that all the time, living under the influence of your parents, living under the influence of the economic system or the education system. You give up little bits of yourself for each one of those influences you pick up in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And as you give up yourself, you just, you start taking things for granted. You start arguing for your limitations. You start arguing for those things that are trying to control you, trying to get you to do what they want. You argue for them. And that's why it's so important to be still. What's that?
I don't like to argue anymore. I try not to. And I try not to, because I always felt the need to justify. Justify everything.
You don't have to prove anything, girl.
Nope. And that is it feels so much better not to have to feel like, and it's, it is what it is. Like I was really, my family did shun me a little bit and tried to shame me a little bit for, you didn't do this. And I said, yeah, well, they didn't either. I said, so it's okay. I said, I did what I did, and that's it. I did what I needed to do is exactly what I said.
Right.
And that was it. And the conversation ended. I wasn't going to explain to them why I was doing what I was doing.
No, there's no reason to.
About 10 years
they're not going to understand it
have.
anyway.
I did not accept that invitation. I did not want any part of that invitation.
You don't accept that invitation to conflict. Like they're going to dish them out. They want people to their party, but you don't have to accept those invitations.
No, because that was their own. Because you know what? Like I said, I didn't say this, but the thought that came to my head, well, neither did, it's a two-way street. Did you come to see me?
Well,
the door was always open.
You don't want to get in those arguments. Like that's
no, I didn't. But that was the first thought in my head.
Right.
And I said,
that's a downward spiral.
But I said, you know what? This is their issue. This is their thing.
It's their issue.
That's right. They feel bad about their action, not mine. But the first thought in my head kind of led me in a different direction. And that's when I didn't say anything at first. I was still.
Once again, stillness. Yeah. Okay. You dropped out. I got Christina in the queue, and it's been such a long time since she and I have spoken, so I'm going to pick her up. Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your walk. Christina.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you, dear?
Oh, so good. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm having my morning coffee, and I'm like, oh, there's Martin. I've talked to him so long, and like I feel like you guys have all been on this journey, and I'm just like coming back, and it's just amazing to listen to you guys. But I was like, I think I could do a Tao of the day today.
Yeah. Let's. So what's going on with you?
Oh God, I'm working on my second book now, and I'm running like global retreats and doing a ton of transformational work, which is blowing my mind, actually. I'm so grateful to be the vessel to help channel that, basically.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, I know you see it too. Like, and, we have that connection through art. Like, I was doing some art workshops with some ladies last weekend, and like the aha moments that they have, it's like, oh God, it's so good. Like, there isn't even words how amazing that is to be able to witness that. It's awesome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm doing my thing. I'm speaking now and, living my best life. I'm actually I feel like even for myself, from when I was on the Wisdom app to here, I've grown a lot too. And it's awesome.
Good. Wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thanks. And it looks like you're still doing this, and like you're building your business and everything's good.
No. I don't do anything. Life is easy. Things, whatever. Things do what they do, and I have no. Whatever. I'm just doing what I do. I don't have any real. I mean, I'm doing this because I love doing this. After this, I'll go, and I'm currently, for the next month and a half, and for the last month and a half, I've been helping a friend of mine build a mosaic. So we're
oh my
doing that.
God.
No, life is easy. I don't know. I just, I'm not doing anything. I'm definitely I definitely don't have any designs on building a business or anything like that. I happen to work with a yoga studio where I'm a resident healer, and I'll be doing a workshop with them.
I love it.
About the Tao, and just things come and I receive. That's all. Life is easy.
Yeah. Well, and I feel that too. Like, I feel like I've shifted. Like, I never dreamed that I would be on this path, like moving along, but it's like literally just listening to insights. You're like, okay, let's try this today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so
and everything,
fun.
life provides, and I don't get in its way.
And it's about the trust too, right? You just have to trust when you're in that place. I was saying this to Mojo the other day, like, I am not scared anymore, which is the craziest thing to even say. I think that there was a time in my life that I was really nervous, like, oh my God, how's this going to work? What's going to happen? And like all these thoughts come in. But now I just really trust. I'm just kind of like, all right, I know it'll work out. Whatever needs to happen will happen. And we'll just go down that path. And it's beautiful because the path keeps unfolding, right? Like, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it doesn't stop, and it doesn't, and that's why. Let's pick a number. Let's see where this takes us.
Okay. 23.
23. Moving over. Speaking from Tao. So you said you were speaking these days, and so
yes.
We're going to speak from Tao. So like I look at these, and so this is, I don't know if you were around when I started like reading from my translation. So this is my translation of the Tao.
Oh, I love this. No, I wasn't. I can't wait.
Yeah, so I wrote this over the last year, over all of last year. I just started writing, and I didn't know what it was going to do or whatever. And then eventually, like, I told the story earlier. I don't know if you were here, but like in January of this year, I noticed that I was looking at, one day I just noticed I was looking at an online printer. And I was like, why am I looking at an online printer? And then I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to print up my Tao. And then it just happened. So like within 3 weeks of me seeing, like, just noticing I was on the website, and I don't know why I was on the website, because it was when I was on the website that I realized that I did have a reason to be on it, even though because I wasn't planning on printing it. I just it was like, oh, well, now I guess it's going to get printed.
So is it published? Can I get it?
Yeah, you can get it.
Oh my God, I'm going to get it. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Continue.
So,
Sorry.
so you can go to my site and you can find that in my in my profile, of course.
Okay. Totally.
So yeah,
I'm going to get it. Okay.
And so this is, so I titled them all. And the nice thing I like doing now is like going over the title and just kind of like getting an idea of what this might be saying before we actually read it. So the title is Speaking from Tao. So there's not really much there. It's just about the idea of speaking or actually communicating with another person, because that's really why we speak, right? We speak to communicate to another person. And from Tao means, being inspired, speaking from that inspired space. And so now we'll go ahead and read it. When you to be said and no more. Neither wind nor storms last all day. Nature expresses itself completely, and no matter how wild it may get, then it returns to stillness. When you open yourself to Tao, you say what is to be said. Everyone will agree, because when you speak from Tao, only Tao can be heard. He who aligns with Tao will only hear Tao. He who aligns with manifestation will only hear manifestation. He who aligns with failure will only hear failure. How it is heard is not your concern. Trust what is to be said, and everything will fall into place.
Oh, God. This actually really resonates. And it was so funny because when I was thinking, I'm like, I'm going to hop on. I'm going to, actually see what number. So it was funny because I pulled my cards and I pulled a card and it was 23. And then you said at that time, you're like, yeah, I've been doing this for 23 years or something. I'm like, okay, this is my message. But I really love it because what I'm hearing from it is that my role is just to speak from the heart, and how people however they interpret it is really for them, right? It's a energy share. It's like, where do they need it? That it'll be the energy that they feel. They'll feel my kind of heart space as I'm relaying the information from a place of truth. This is what I'm hearing. And I think that's a very important message for speakers anyways, because sometimes we get so concerned as to what should we say? Do they need to hear this? Do they need to hear that? It's like, well, you're losing the purity of the message if you're not speaking from the heart, and people will hear what they need to hear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's interesting that this one, and this is the first time I've really kind of connected these two parts, right? The beginning started, neither wind nor storms last all day. Nature expresses itself completely, no matter how wild it may get. Then it returns to stillness. The interesting thing in speaking about this is that if it is windy out, your experience of the wind is going to be different than my experience of the wind. It might be strong for both of us, but I might be like, ooh, feel that wind. And someone else might be like, oh my God, I got dirt in my eyes. I got this.
Yeah.
So no matter how it's going to be experienced, nature doesn't give a damn.
Right.
It's going to be like, look, I'm windy. Good. Get it up you. I'm just going to I'm going to be windy. And so if I'm going to go up and speak to somebody and I'm going to concern myself with their grievances or their assumptions or their ideas. And then when nature is done blowing its wind and I say, oh, I didn't get enough, the wind doesn't start up again. It doesn't explain itself.
Oh my God.
It doesn't try and say, no, look, you got all that I was going to give you. Do whatever you want to do with that now. It's not my responsibility to give you more. It's your responsibility for that to have, like, if you were enjoying it, for what I gave to be enough. And if you weren't enjoying it, for what I gave to give you enough to learn how to receive it. And that's as it goes on. And this is a brand new way that I'm seeing this one. for
Oh,
whatever reason.
I love
So
it.
when you open yourself to Tao, say what is to be said, and everyone will agree, because when you speak from Tao, only Tao can be heard. Now, what is Tao? Tao is that with which you align. And so it says, he who aligns with Tao will only hear Tao. He who aligns with manifestation will only hear manifestation. He who aligns with failure will only hear failure. How it is heard is not your concern, because how they align, what they need to hear, how they're growing, the stage of which they are growing through at this moment is specific to them.
Oh my gosh.
And you can't know that.
So good. This is so.
So yeah. And then it just says, trust what is to be said, and everything will fall into place.
Oh, honestly, I feel as though, the universe, my guides, like it is, I was meant to hear that. So just before I got on the call with you today, I just got confirmation that I was selected to speak at this women's conference that's going to have between 4,000 and 10,000 people at it. And I was like, oh, okay, so what am I going to do? And this is like the message that it's just like, just speak your truth and people are going to hear what they need to hear. And I love the interpretation about the storm and the wind, right? Mm-hmm. How nature doesn't explain itself, right? It doesn't, it just is, right? It's either beautiful or it could be harming, but it just shows up and does its thing. And it's really based on where people are at. That's what will happen. So, right. God, I've missed you so much.
Well, it's wonderful to see you back.
Oh God, you know what? Like I find your wisdom is just so beautiful because it's just I find it inspires me, and it's not. I don't know. It speaks to my soul. It's very peaceful and it's very profound without being like, hey, I got all the answers. It's not like that. It's actually very thought provoking, and it kind of speaks to my soul. So there was a reason why I had to have coffee with you this morning.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. Like I'm good.
I know.
No doubt about it.
I could see that. It's absolutely wonderful. And I've missed you. So it's like, it's good. I'll be back. Now I'm going to
So what I do now, because it's easier for me, I've set it up to do this. I'll send the text to you of this in a chat here.
Excellent.
Yeah, and again, like you can pick up a book whenever. And
I
would love that. Yeah,
I will definitely support, and I will do that because I know there's such value in it. So, and when I have stuff like this, like I love to share with others, right? So we might use your book in some exercises as we move forward.
Oh, I would be so honored for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about being of service, and you're definitely doing that. So I just wanted to say thank you. You've given me stuff to think about on my walk today, and I will be back. That's for sure. 1,000,000%.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Okay,
all right, Christine, it's great to see you again. Love you.
Okay,
we'll be in touch.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and get you off. Yep, I got you. I think there is a leave button at the bottom of the screen, but it depends on like what format and what platform you're listening to and stuff. So, thank you all for joining me. It's always such a pleasure to hang out with you guys in the morning. That was Tao of the Day. I am looking forward to Monday when I'll be back. And until then, keep recovering yourself.